Hello and welcome into the new sports show, The Sports Mandate. I'm John Hand.
I'm TJ Horgan.
Thank you so much for making us a part of your evening. We have a fantastic show for you planned. Terrific guests, little football talk, fantasy football.
Baseball.
We got everything covered for you. So let's get rolling with what's been going on in the news this week.
Your news top stories today. LeBron James signed a contract with Starz Network to be their sitcom executive producer. In other news, LeBron also requested to be the director, supporting actor, lead actor, production assistant, changed the name of the network to LeBron TV, then abandoned the network later for a bigger contract with a more high market network and win 2 Emmys with a better supporting cast.
As TJ mentioned, LeBron James just joined Starz as the executive producer for all sitcoms. Starz once produced beloved sitcoms such as The Cosby Show and Roseanne. But much like LeBron's hairline, Starz sitcoms have been receding.
The Oakland Raiders, Oakland Raiders news, yes, you're getting it. The Oakland Raiders have named 2012 supplemental draft pick Terrell Pryor as their Week 1 starter because that's Darren McFadden's favorite number. Terrell Pryor wears number 6. That's a joke, but this team's a mess.
Cleveland Indians closer Chris Perez was recently fined $250 and put on a 1-year probation for a misdemeanor drug use. That drug was marijuana. Perez recently acquired his 4th blown save of the year against the Minnesota Twins. Perez's ERA, much like him, is getting high.
Recently, information was released that Aaron Hernandez, up to a year prior to his arrest, used the illicit drug PCP. PC also used as a horse tranquilizer. Hernandez should consider bringing this with him to prison, where he is bound to hear the phrase, "Ride me like a horse."
The Cubs have recently acquired former Red Sox reliever Daniel Bard off waivers. The Cubs released a statement after the acquisition saying, "You think you've seen a bad pitching staff? Wait till you see this guy."
Patriots owner Bob Kraft released a statement in the wake of Tim Tebow's release, and I quote, "I love Tim Tebow, and I very much wanted him on the team." Later that day, Kraft received unexpected nose reduction surgery for an increase in nose size.
That's a Pinocchio joke. We are now joined by Portland Sea Dogs announcer and 98.5 The Sports Hub radio host, Matt McCarthy. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Great, guys. How are you doing tonight?
Fantastic. Thanks for being on.
Anytime.
So, Matt, I'm sure you know that the Cubs recently acquired Daniel Bard, and he's had his struggles here in Boston. Do you think Theo Epstein has any plan to resurrect his career, or is this just Theo saying, fingers crossed, maybe this guy can do something?
I think it's more of the latter in that scenario. I think Daniel Bard is going to be quite a project. For a team like the Cubs, they obviously have a lot more flexibility with their 40-man roster and Daniel Bard. With the Red Sox, they would have loved to have kept him. The problem is when you're in a pennant race and when you are going to have a big 40-man roster crunch this winter, you have to make some tough decisions. 40-man roster spots are very hard to come by for a team like the Red Sox. So eventually they just had to say, you know what, it's time that we need to take Bard off the 40-man to make room for players who are going to help us more quickly in the future. And that's a decision they had to make. A team like the Cubs, they can probably afford to stash Daniel Bard on the 40-man roster because they're not going to compete anytime soon. I think it would be pretty hard to say right now that Daniel Bard will ever return to where he was. I think there have to be some serious doubts about Daniel Bard's effectiveness moving forward. He's just had a terrible year, to be honest. He's coming off an injury and just battling wildness and ineffectiveness. So for a guy like Bard, it's hard to wonder. You have to wonder if he'll ever return to what he was, but eventually the Red Sox simply just ran out of time. And for a team like the Cubs, it's an opportunity to say maybe we can turn him into something, but I don't really know if they can fully count on that.
David Ortiz just got his 2000th career hit, and he really has dominated the DH position, even at the stage in his career that he is now. Does David Ortiz get into the Hall of Fame?
As of right now, no, because of the steroid era, and I don't think that helps David Ortiz at all. Of course, a positive test back in 2003. Maybe as we remove from the steroid era, a guy like David Ortiz does get in. But if Barry Bonds, a lot of people are questioning whether Barry Bonds is going to get in. Guys like Mark McGwire, Roger Clemens, if those guys aren't getting in, I don't see David Ortiz getting in at this point. But I think we need to wait about 10 years on that because he is probably the most successful designated hitter in history. After he's been a better hitter than Edgar Martinez and Harold Baines. So it would be weird to think that the best at what he did, and maybe in history, doesn't get in. But the steroid era does not help David Ortiz right now. But 10 years from now, we'll see if that changes.
Speaking of the steroid era, Alex Rodriguez. Oh, did I say that? Alex Rodriguez getting hit by Ryan Dempster. I guess you might be old news a little bit, but I'm going to bring it up. Did Ryan Dempster deserve that suspension?
Yeah, probably. I think because simply you threw at a hitter. Right. And I think any pitcher is going to get suspended. I don't
think 4
times
in a row, too.
Yeah, 4 times in a row. I mean, maybe you should just suspend him for being completely ineffective at being able to locate his fastball. Because after he couldn't hit Alex Rodriguez, he couldn't, locate the ball low in the zone. So, he got a slap on the wrist. Major League Baseball, they fined him like $2,500, and suspended him for 5 days. They probably had to do something just because there's, I guess, a moral obligation to protect the safety of hitters, but Major League Baseball didn't exactly do too much to Ryan Dempster.
So how do you see them doing in the playoffs?
I think they're absolutely a World Series contender. I would say that it's between them and the Tigers in the American League as the best teams in the American League.
We saw what happened with the Tigers last night.
Yeah, we did. Well, the Tigers' bullpen is a bit of a concern for them. But I think the Red Sox are one of the 3 best teams in the majors. I think they're going to contend for a World Series title. Maybe my one concern is the depth in the bullpen. But as I mentioned a few minutes ago, with those top 4, if Buchholz is healthy, I'd line those guys up against anybody in the playoffs. Yeah, I know Verlander and Scherzer is probably a better 1-2, and if you were to make it to the World Series, Greinke and Kershaw is a better 1-2. But you have to like those guys' chances in any single game. I think there's no way you can dislike what the Red Sox starting pitching offers.
Right. Matt McCarthy, thank you very much for coming on. We appreciate it. Matt McCarthy of 98.5 The Sports Hub.
All right, thank you so much, guys. Yeah, that's a competitor. You probably don't want to mention them.
See you later,
Thanks a lot, Matt.
Hey, take care, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Let's talk some high school football. As I'm a resident of Reading.
I'm a Burlington, Massachusetts native.
We both are in high school. I attend Reading. You obviously attend Burlington.
Absolutely.
So we can give you kind of a unique perspective on how each football team will do this season. And as they head into the season, we each have some season previews. Looking at the Reading football squad, this team looks strong once again. They are Super Bowl bound. The coaching staff is excellent. This is a well-coached team. They have that elite quarterback in Drew Belcher, who head coach John Fiore just called the best quarterback in Reading history.
Yeah.
So when your head coach says that, who's been coaching there for 10 years, that's a pretty good sign.
And that could have gone to Belcher's head, but it really hasn't. Brendan Hall for ESPN Boston did an interview with Belcher, and Belcher was very humble about that.
Yeah, and another thing that was mentioned in that article is that he hasn't gotten a scholarship offer yet. And as he said in the article, he likes to play with a chip on his shoulder, and I hope that chip can stay with him throughout the season, and that'll really motivate him to perform and show why he deserves that top-notch scholarship, and hopefully he will get it. On the offensive side of the ball, though, this team, it looks fantastic. The running game looks good once again. David Sherlin is a player that everyone should keep his or her eye on. This guy knows how to run. He never runs for negative yards, always picking up quality yardage. Mm-hmm. On the defensive side of the ball...
Yeah, will they repeat what this amazing defensive season they had last year?
I don't think they will. And that's not saying this defense will be bad. That's just saying it's hard to beat how good last year's defense was.
Right.
5 shutouts. Teams only average 5 points against them all season. Mm-hmm. The thing with this defense is there's a lot of inexperience, and on the offensive side of the ball too. But I think that can be overcome with a good coaching staff and a good group of seniors. There's a good core group of seniors who went to the Super Bowl last year and won, who've been to playoff games and been impact players on this team. So I really think that they can show them the way and show you this is how you win. This is Rocket football.
New Massachusetts playoff format. Each team plays 7 regular season games. Does Reading lose a game?
Reading does not lose a game. They go 7-0. I believe they cruise through the playoffs as well. A team like Waltham or Haverhill might give them a little bit of trouble in the playoffs, but I don't see them losing. Once they get to the Super Bowl, they will face a team that's so good that they didn't face all year round. This is a whole new beast they will have to face in the
And an interesting note on that, they don't play Burlington in the regular season this year anymore. They scrimmage Burlington, I believe, in a week. And so we have some interviews planned for that week, which should be good. Within Red Devils football, you got the quarterback Shane Farley returning. Farley says he doesn't want to play football in college. He's looking at different colleges for basketball, Worcester Polytech and Tufts being two of them right now. But he knows this system. Sean McGuire, the head coach, is not known for changing his system drastically, and Farley connects with Sean McGuire on this coaching player relationship, and he knows this offense. Farley definitely knows this offense, and he has his receiver Christian Mornowick, both of whom were on varsity as freshmen. So you got Mornowick and Farley leading the offense, and then you have a shaky offensive line. That's going to be their offense's weak point this year, because it's pretty much anyone's game for the spots right now. Right now you have Brandon Kelly, Christian Woods, and Joe Morgan all on the offensive line, who are competent starters by all means. However, there are certainly two spots there that are up for grabs. And in terms of running back, they took a big hit. As Sean McGuire said, it's hard to compensate for 3,300 yards this year.
That's hard to do. That's
Anthony Cruz and Marcus Odaya, two of the most dynamic, best running backs in the Middlesex League, they're both off for college now. So it's going to be tough to produce that offense again. And they also lost this year a graduating senior, Harrison Smosky, who was a deep threat, one of the fastest players in the Middlesex League.
So will the offense really, how do you project this offense to look? Will it be able to do anything without these running backs?
It's going to stay a passing offense. Last year they were run heavy because of the immense talent they had at running back. It's going to be a pass heavy offense. However, you do have Paul Robinson, certainly a dynamic running back who can escape in and out of holes, and then you have Giuseppe Malika, a fullback who can pound it in for short yardage. On the defensive side of the ball, I believe they only have 3 seniors returning, which is definitely tough when you're talking inexperience. Chris Aria and Dom Colicchio led the linebackers last year, two of the best linebackers in the Middlesex League. They're both gone this year. So I think when you're watching Burlington, you're going to see a lot of high-scoring games.
So Burlington, obviously, I guess a youth movement, you could say.
Right.
So do you see this team growing and progressively will get better as the years go by?
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. You have not necessarily young players leading the team right now, but young players are bound to get better. They're going to stay in the system and learn McGuire's offense.
So how does Burlington do this year?
Burlington loses one, maybe a second game. First game of the season, Bill Ricca, everybody gets amped up for that. That's actually tomorrow. I'm broadcasting that for Burlington Cable Access. But they're going to get amped up for the games. Morale is certainly no question on Burlington. They think they're playing as underdogs right now, so they're going to work at it. They're going to work hard, and they're going to earn their spot into the playoffs.
So you think they will get in the playoffs?
I think there's a playoff berth and chance for Burlington.
Okay. Is there any chance for a Super Bowl run maybe, or is it just playoffs?
I don't know. Playoffs, then we'll see. We're going to play that one by year. I don't know how realistic a Super Bowl run is. Being a resident of that town, I'd certainly love a Super Bowl run, but I think realistically, you're looking at a playoff berth. Right now, we're with Kyle Draper, Comcast Sportsnet anchor and expert on basketball. Kyle, how you doing?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me on, guys.
Doing well. We really appreciate the time. We were having some video connectivity issues earlier. Right now, we got them on great audio. Thanks again.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, so my first question is, with timeless arguments in basketball, or, you got LeBron versus Michael Jordan, I want to know in any sport, I'm assuming basketball, is there a controversial argument that you have maybe a different opinion on than the norm?
Well, a lot of people, we were just having this argument the other day about the best NFL running back of all time. And, a lot of people say Barry Sanders or somebody like that. And growing up, I was an Emmitt Smith guy, and so that raised some eyebrows here in the studio at Comcast Sportsnet.
Huh.
But I said Emmitt Smith has the numbers. He has the all-time rushing record, so he's the guy.
Yep.
Some other arguments we have, disagreements, for many years I was an Alex Rodriguez guy, believe it or not. I thought people were too hard on him.
Yeah.
Just recently, in the last month, I've changed my tune on that. But, so, I mean, usually the way I operate, guys, if everyone says the sky is blue, I want to argue that. I say, hold up, it's a little gray on this day, So there's always something to argue about.
Yeah. Would you respect Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith for their ability to do that too?
Yeah, a little bit, and I used to be into those guys, but they take it too far.
Right.
They argue everything. And a lot of times I wonder, is it just to get ratings? Is it just to make a name. And so
Right.
I stopped watching those guys. Much respect to them. They can do what they do. But, it's like you already know what Skip Bayless thinks of LeBron James.
Yeah, that's true.
Why even hear from him anymore on LeBron? We already know what he's going to say.
Hi, Kyle. John Hand here. And I want to focus in a little bit on this year's Celtics team. New head coach Brad Stevens taking over the reins. How do you feel about him?
I like Brad. Seems like a nice guy. I had a chance to talk with him for about 10 to 15 minutes today, and he seems like a good guy. The thing about it is with this Celtics team, guys, if you don't have the talent, I don't care if you're Phil Jackson, Red Auerbach, it doesn't matter, John Wooden, you're not going to win. And so I think Danny Ainge giving Brad Stevens a 6-year deal shows that, hey, he may take his lumps in year 1 or 2, but he's in it for the long haul. We want him here. And so I think there's going to be some growing pains, but there's no question about his basketball mind. Everybody you talk to, they say that X's and O's, he's one of the top guys out there. It's just a matter of how he relates to the NBA player, and will the Celtics surround him with the talent needed to win.
So all these pieces putting together from Rondo to Green, Brad Stevens' coaching staff, how do you project the Celtics to look this season?
I think the Celtics will look just like they did last season, to be honest with you, battling for the 8th, maybe even the 7th spot. And that's the thing, no KG, no Paul Pierce, no Jason Terry, but they still may wind up in the same position when it comes to the playoffs. They still may sneak up and make that 7th seed or that 8th seed. But if you're Danny Ainge, is that what you want? That's the million-dollar question. Do you want to make the playoffs and then get bounced in a sweep 4 games like before, or do you want to tank, dare I say it, and get a higher lottery
you said
pick?
the magic word, tank, right there.
I hate using that word, too, because it's like it's a connotation that you're not even trying, but the players don't believe that. But if you're Danny Ainge, is it better to not maybe do as well this season and get a higher lottery pick?
Have you thought that the Celtics could do that? Are you second guessing that?
Here's the thing: the Celtics have too much talent to be awful, like the Charlotte Bobcats or like the Sixers. I mean, anytime you could throw a Rondo out there, if you could throw a Jeff Green out there, if you could throw a healthy Jared Sullinger, Gerald Wallace. I mean, listen to those names. Sure, they may not be superstars, but they are quality NBA players. And I just think they have too much talent to just totally bottom out this season.
All right, well, Kyle, we really appreciate your time. Thanks again. Kyle Draper, everyone, Comcast Sportsnet.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, we are with the Boston Celtics assistant coach right now, Walter McCarty, also a former Boston Celtic. Walter, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. How you guys doing?
Doing well. Thanks a lot for being here.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, so my first question, Walter, has to do with, the biggest name on the Boston Celtics right now, Rajon Rondo. What's that relationship like between Brad Stevens and Rajon Rondo?
Well, it's been great just to see them working every day and just strengthening that relationship has been awesome. They both have been really receptive of each other, and I think it's going to be a great relationship. Brad's one of Rajon's biggest fans, and I think it's going to turn out well.
Walter, now as an assistant coach with the Celtics, what do you bring to the team?
I bring a lot of experience. I've been in a lot of situations that these guys have been in as a player, and just as a player off the court. So bring a lot of experience, but also, I can help out with guys with their development of their game, and just really understand some of the things that they're going through or that they're dealing with, and really how to relate to them and relate that to Brad. And just make everybody better.
Walter, Brad Stevens kind of has a reputation of being a big analytics guy. Do you believe in analytics? Do you like to use them?
I think they help. And, I think the big thing is that we're just really trying to put our guys in the best situation as possible, prepare our guys for what we see, in analytical. So we're just really trying to help them out, and hopefully they give us an advantage, they give us an edge, whether it's a small edge or a big edge, that's all we're looking for.
One guy who I'm a big fan of that the Celtics acquired, this offseason, Gerald Wallace. Some people say he's washed up, injured. I still consider him one of the better defenders in the game. How's Wallace looking?
Right. He hasn't been in, but, I've played against Gerald for years, and, I'm very excited, and I can't wait for him to get to town because I just think this city is really going to take a liking to him. You know, he's a high-energy player who plays hard on every single play. He's going to get his extra possessions, but he's also big enough where he can do a lot of things offensively for us. And I think with the way he plays, I think the people, the city of Boston, they're going to love him. And I think he's going to be a great surprise.
Going back to Rajon Rondo, how is this guy progressing? When can we see him back on the court?
Well, I can't give you guys all that information.
Thought I'd try.
He's looking well. He's working out well in a lot of these drills, and I'm just so excited to see how hard he's working and how eager he is and how excited he is and the type of energy he's been bringing every day. So I'm excited, and he looks good right now. So I'm sure he's just excited as we are to get back on the court.
Walter, you're also a R&B artist and a very talented one at that. I really enjoy your music. I want to know, who has the best voice on the Celtics besides yourself?
I don't know. I haven't been around long enough with this particular group. But I hear Brandon Bass is a musician. I believe he raps. I'm not really sure. I haven't heard anything yet. I don't know. We'll see. Right now, I have to say myself.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
The Celtics this offseason made a huge blockbuster trade by sending Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce to Brooklyn to play for the Nets. Pierce and Garnett are both notorious leaders in the locker room. So now with those two gone, who will be the leader in this locker room?
Well, I think definitely you have to look at a guy like Rajon. But also Keith Bogans, who's been in the league for years, who's going to be a very solid player for us. Jeff Green, who's been around. Joe Wallace, who's been around. So we have guys who have experience. Even Avery Bradley, Courtney Lee. These guys have been around. Brandon Bass. So we have a good group here that's been around the league, and that don't make us so young, as a lot of people seem to think. But we do have some young guys. It's going to be a challenge, but I think we have enough here to really lead this team and really develop.
You know, this question is on everybody's mind. We talked to Comcast Sportsnet Kyle Draper earlier, and he brought this up. He said the magic word. Do you think, how much talk has there been? I'll put it that way. How much talk has there been about tanking this season?
There's been no talk about it. Absolutely zero.
Yep.
When guys step on the court and they put those jerseys on, they don't want to lose. They want to win basketball games. So within the team, the structure of the team, there's been absolutely no talk making games.
Right, and that's what I thought too. That's what I assumed. Players don't want to lose games.
Training camp's just a few weeks away for you guys. Heading into the season, what's the message to the Boston Celtics?
We're just going to, be our best. We're going to do what we do and try to come together as a team and play together as a team. And I think if we do that, be ourselves and play together, I think we have a good chance of succeeding.
Walter, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure as always. We really appreciate the time.
You got it, TJ. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Walter.
Thank you. Go Celtics.
You got it.
Let's talk some fantasy football. Everybody's into this, most people at least. I'm a huge fantasy football player. I live and die for it.
Sunday mornings is dedicated to fantasy football. That's where you go on, read your injury report, and make your moves.
That is true. I know you're drafting this year too. We're both in a league together. What players are you high on this year?
I'm big on Alex Smith and Carson Palmer. If you need a quarterback, and these two have not, hear me out here. I'm a big Alex Smith fan. I think that he kind of got the short end of the stick in San Francisco. Coordinator changes, head coaching changes.
Okay.
Finally gets the right head coach for him.
Right.
Guess what? He gets shipped out of town.
Yeah, I like Alex Smith too, but I feel as though there are too many better quarterbacks than Alex Smith. He doesn't have that sleeper potential. I think if you're looking at a guy with Alex Smith's passing ability, unless he's a Tom Brady, which I would not say he is, he doesn't run the ball, so there's not as much upside for Alex Smith.
Sure, but I say if one of your quarterbacks, A, gets hurt, or B, you went running back heavy and wide receiver heavy, and you need a quarterback,
True.
Go for Alex Smith. Another quarterback that if you need him kind of scrambling right now, Carson Palmer.
Interesting.
And here's why. Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
That is why.
Would you compare him to Kurt Warner?
I think I don't know if I'd compare him, but he's the best quarterback Larry Fitzgerald's had since Kurt Warner.
Well, yeah, I don't think John Skelton was much of a competition
But
there.
look what Kurt Warner and Larry Fitzgerald did together.
Yeah,
Super Bowl.
absolutely.
They went to the Super Bowl. So I think this could be a big year for those two. Obviously,
Right.
NFC West, tough division.
Definitely.
You got to play the 49ers and the Seahawks, two of the best defenses in the NFL.
Absolutely.
But if you, the rest of the schedule, I think this guy, once again, you're scrambling for a quarterback gets hurt, I'd pick him up.
You know, going back to the Chiefs, I'm not so high on Alex Smith, but I am high on his number one receiver and pretty much
Bowe.
only piece of hands on that team, Dwayne Bowe.
Sure,
on
I'm
that
very
team,
high on Dwayne Bowe.
you have Dwayne Bowe, and then you have Tony Moeaki, who's out for the season now. So Dwayne Bowe is pretty much the only receiver in that West Coast offense that Andy Reid likes to run. Dwayne Bowe is a better receiver skill-wise than Deshaun Jackson, and look at the year Deshaun Jackson had in his best year with Michael Vick. Dwayne Bowe he's going to be a top 10 fantasy receiver this year. I'm putting it at that. I will bank on it. He will be a number one receiver.
And don't sleep on the Chiefs.
Right.
I think this is a better team than people are letting on. Colin Kaepernick has gotten a lot of attention this offseason. Alex Smith, not so much, which I think will probably be good for him.
Yeah.
And they have talent. They just were undercoached and underperformed. You bring Andy Reid in, you still have that talent there. You got a pretty solid quarterback there. Let's see what they can do. And I think Dwayne Bowe will get a lot of targets this year from Alex Smith.
All right, another guy who I'm really high on this year that most people would say is undrafted in a standard 10-team league, not two quarterback or anything. I wrote an article about him, BostonSportsU18.com. Check it out if you want. But Geno Smith,
Okay.
he is if you look at him in college, he didn't run as much as people would have liked him to, but he has the ability to run. And when he's in this offense, the main reason I pointed out, the Jets offensive coordinator, Marty Mornhinweg. Marty Mornhinweg said that he wants Geno Smith to be the starting quarterback, which he is for week 1. I don't think Sanchez will see a start. I think they might put him in if they're getting killed or they're killing a team. I think they'll put in Mark Sanchez. However, Marty Mornhinweg from 2006 to 2012 was the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. You want to know who the Philadelphia Eagles quarterback was for the last 3 years of that stint? Michael Vick, the best dynamic quarterback of all time.
And quickly before we get into that, the Jets starting QB, I want to give Rex Ryan a shout out. And I want to say, pure genius move.
If you're watching this, Rex.
Yeah, I'm sure he's watching. Pure genius move. Put one of your quarterbacks in on the fourth quarter of a preseason game, get him hurt, then you have no controversy. Genius move by Rex Ryan.
Fantastic.
But I don't know what you're thinking with Geno Smith because I look around at this Jets team and they're just awful. Who's he going to be throwing to?
Listen, they have uneven offensive line performance. I'll give you that. But when you have uneven offensive line performance, he's going to scramble. And if he scrambles, he might get sacked a couple times, but you don't get negative fantasy points on a quarterback for sacks. You get positive fantasy points for a run, regardless if it's a scramble gone awry and he just goes straight down the field for a 60-yard touchdown.
What about injury, though? When we look at Robert Griffin III last year.
Injury, okay. Also with Robert Griffin III, he was a rookie quarterback last year, West Coast offense. Geno Smith, rookie quarterback, West Coast offense. Both have the talent. He has the talent to do what RG3 did.
But what about RG3 injury-wise? I mean, I think any quarterback that leaves a pocket is putting an X on their back, and they are bound to get hurt. And especially the way the league is now, I think defensive players really want to kind of target the quarterback because they do get protected while they're in the pocket.
Sure, but look at Cam Newton. He is the best rushing quarterback of the past 5 years.
Big sophomore slump, though.
Right. I wouldn't say big sophomore slump, but he didn't get injured. You're saying injuries are a huge risk, and sure they are, but statistically, Cam Newton ran into the most amount of tackles out of all the rushing quarterbacks. He ran out of bounds the least, and he still hasn't gotten injured.
So I'm not a huge Geno Smith guy, but I see your point, and I take that. I think it's a good point.
All right.
How about Rob Gronkowski? I'm assuming many people picked him up in your draft.
Right, definitely. In the past few weeks, he's been going higher and higher in drafts.
His value's gone up.
I picked him up in one of my leagues, 10-team, 6th round, beginning of the 6th round, which I think actually beginning of the 7th round, which is totally a steal because Rob Gronkowski, you take away 2 games. He didn't play 2 games last year. He was still the best tight end in the NFL.
I was going to say, if you drafted Rob Gronkowski, you should feel really confident.
Good pick,
because
absolutely. And hopefully you got Zach Sudfeld.
Yeah. All you've seen from this guy is positive stuff so far. Only little concern is that he's not as strong as he once was.
Yep.
But, I mean, look at what's happened in the recent weeks. He's on the active roster. He's been practicing.
definitely.
The Patriots released.
They released Ballard and Daniel Fells.
So I think this guy, he's going to be in there. I hope not until week 3. I don't want them to push him. There's no point in him playing against the Buffalo or the Jets.
So
we'll see. I think there's definitely a reason to be confident. He's the only one Brady can trust right now in this offense. He's the only one Brady's really had a rapport with.
Exactly. For myself, TJ Horgan, John Hand, Kyle Draper, Walter McCarty, Mike McCarthy, Jimmy Young, Phil Rushworth, Will Myers, Andrew, Tim, those guys were in the studio doing work that you don't see on camera, but it is fantastic. I'm TJ Horgan, and as Johnny Manziel would say, we're signing off.